For time and the world did not stand still. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future. This is a quote by our 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, also known as JFK, was born in Brookline, Massachusetts on May 29, 1917. He had 3 brothers and 5 sisters. He graduated from Harvard in 1940. He then, after graduating Harvard, entered the Navy. He became a lieutenant and lost his brother Jack in the war that they were fighting in. As the war was coming to an end, John was returning home and needed to decide what work he was going to do now. What's left out there for me to do? While he was in war, his brother Jack was encouraging him into joining the Congress. He's a good political speaker. He knew a lot about that type of stuff and he enjoyed it. He loved his country, is what everybody needs to know. When he returned home, he was convinced by his brother that he should run for Congress and was then elected in 1946 and served for 3 terms in the House of Representatives. And then, also in 1952, he was later enrolled and inaugurated into the Senate in 1952. John F. Kennedy, at the age of 36, married 24-year-old Jacqueline Bouvier, a writer with the Washington Times-Herald. He had major back problems and had to go through extensive back surgeries twice after his marriage with Jacqueline. During his recovery time, he wrote a book called Profiles in Courage. This was a book about profiling and knowing courage and helping the United States realize that as a citizen you are to help your country, not just sit back and be a part of it. Shortly after him and Jacqueline had their first child, Caroline, this is when he wrote his book. As time went on, John F. Kennedy was becoming a very popular politician around the world and decided to run for president of the United States on July 13, 1960. He was only supposed to run for vice president, but decided to go all out and run for president. He was the leading Democratic leader in the race and won president on November 6, 1960, by defeating Richard Nixon, who was a leading Republican Party leader. Kennedy was the youngest president ever elected and the first Catholic ever elected. Before his inauguration, his second child, John Jr., was born. He liked to call him John. He was a little mini-me. In his inaugurational speech, he spoke of the need for all Americans to be active citizens. One of his famous quotes that he has, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." The Kennedys believed that the White House should be a place to celebrate American history, culture, and achievement. One of the first things President Kennedy did was create the Peace Corps. Through this, the program, which still exists today, Americans can volunteer to work anywhere in the world where assistance is needed. Also, Kennedy was the first president to ask Congress to approve more than $22 billion for the Project Apollo, which had the goal of landing an American man on the moon before the end of the decade, which happened. Kennedy was coming to the end of his term and was deadly killed. Kennedy was shot in the head and died a short time after, on November 22nd. Within a few hours of getting shot, police arrested Lee Harvey Oswald and charged another man, Jack Ruby, for shooting Oswald the next day, taking away the only person that could ever give information about the tragedy of what happened that day. President Kennedy's death caused enormous sadness and grief among all Americans. John Kennedy's brief time in office stands out in people's memories for his leadership, personality, and accomplishments. Many respect his coolness and when faced with difficult decisions. Others admire his ability to give eloquent speeches, which he did very well. He was later on awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1993 after his death. He was a president that gave all that he had as a citizen of the United States, even more as a president of the United States. His country and his people came before anything, and he did anything to protect them and keep his country happy and alive. He was a president never forgotten by any, and he lives in many people's hearts today and throughout the history of time.